Welcome to Tobar's Realm. Today we're going into our barn to rescue an item that's been floating around in there for as long as I can remember. My grandfather was a civilian contractor during World War II. I think he was in Hawaii, and he tended to have sticky fingers, if you know what I mean. And one of the items that ended up in our barn is this old wooden propeller. I have no idea what kind of plane that would come off of, but I'm gonna drag it into my garage and clean it up and mount it on the wall. Well, I got the propeller back to my garage. You can see it's made from laminated pieces that must have been glued together. I don't know if this was actually used on a plane or not. I really don't know any of the history of it. There is a symbol on here. Sensenich Brothers, Willits, Pennsylvania. I have no idea what that is. On the leading edge, it looks like thin metal mounted on there. It's 8 feet 2 inches long. It's got some holes drilled in here. Maybe it was mounted to the wall sometime in the past. But I think I'm gonna make a mounting plaque that is gonna be like round, so it kind of looks like a radial engine. Mount that to the back of it, and then make it wide enough where I can mount it to the studs in the wall. So pretty neat. Sensenich Brothers, Willits, Pennsylvania. Well, just looking this thing over, I found a couple of markings. It's got a 1 stamped right there, and then a 2 on this side, and then I can't make out what that is, but this looks like 1974. I don't know if that's a coincidence or maybe that's the year it was made. I thought it was older than that, but if that's 1974, I literally don't know anything about it other than it's been around, floating around as long as I can remember. So I'm gonna clean it up, not try to refinish it or anything, just clean it up and then mount it. So I've been looking over this propeller a little more, and I did find some more markings. It looks like model 98AA-64, and then serial number A. Maybe that hole took out one of the numbers that was on there, but looks like A43. Is that a 9 maybe? -1974. So that should help me figure it out a little bit better. And I'm gonna start cleaning this up. I'm gonna start off with just vacuuming the dust off of it, and then probably just wipe it down with just a wet rag. I don't think I'm gonna put any kind of soap or cleaning solution. Just some warm water and try to get it cleaned up. I mean, obviously it's not gonna be perfect, but I've seen antique shows and stuff, and one of the biggest mistakes you can make is trying to refurbish something that's old, and you end up doing more damage than good. So that's my plan for now. I vacuumed it off and just wiped it down with a wet rag. Just tried to get all the dust and little stains and blemishes, whatever, that were stuck on it. And it turned out pretty good, I think. It's too bad one of those things is missing. I also found some stuff online, both from the Sensenich website, and also some other links I found. So I'll post those things right after this clip. Sensenich website, it says that if the serial number is non-letter prefix or an A prefix serial number, the propeller was made between 1932 and 1942. That's more the time period I was expecting. I tracked down the serial number, and it was used on a Boeing PT-13 and PT-17, which was actually a biplane that was a Navy training aircraft in the 30s, probably early 40s, I guess. But here's some pictures of what those look like. All right, well, I got it mounted on the wall. Looks like it's pretty straight. It's tough with something that long because you get off just a little and it'll be noticeable, but I think it looks okay. So I'll put this clip in the middle of the video, but if you want to see the building of the bracket that I made to mount it on the wall, just keep watching. Otherwise, if you know anything about this propeller, please comment and send me more information, because I'd like to learn more about it. But hope you thought it was interesting, and thanks for watching. See you next time. So I've been trying to figure out what kind of mounting plaque I want to do. This was kind of my original plan, but it's been kind of difficult to figure out exactly how to cut the pieces so it'll be a perfect circle like that. So I started trying it out on some graph paper and trying to figure out the angles and size of the wood and stuff, and just been kind of struggling with it, honestly. And then what I finally settled on was that if this is the propeller in the middle, I'm gonna do an X-shaped piece out of 1x6 and then countersink both pieces so it fits flush together, and then build a ring around the outside out of 1x6, and then each piece will just cover 1/8 of the circle. So I transferred that to a piece of cardboard, and then this is the piece. So I'm gonna just cut those out of the cardboard to make a pattern to make sure they fit together properly, and then that cross piece of 1x6 will go here and make the circle and attach it to the back of that. Attach it to the back of that propeller. So that's my plan. Okay, well, I got all the patterns for the outer piece where they will overlap by 1 inch at each of the joints. It's 3 feet across. I'm hoping it's not too big, but I'm gonna keep going, and the worst that could happen is it's a failure. And then there'll be a cross of 2 1x6s, and then the propeller will be mounted in the center. Alright, well, I got the pieces that will form the circle on the outer edge. Got those about as identical to each other as I can do. And then you can see the pattern on this cardboard. That outer line is where those arc-shaped pieces will go. The circle's 36 inches in diameter. Then I also got the cross pieces that will go in an X. I countersunk those just using router. So that will create the X in the middle. They fit. I had them together earlier, but they're struggling with me now. So that'll go an X like that. And then all these will go on the outer edge. And I'll countersink where they cross the X. And countersink each side of the overlap on these. So getting there pretty good, I think. So I've been working my way around the circle here and notching those pieces so they overlap. And I've just been doing them in groups of 2. The first 2, second 2, third group of 2. And now I'm doing the 4th pair. So what I do is I just line up this edge with the line that segments this circle. So I'll line that up with that. And then on the other end, line up the top piece so that it's even with the line. Then I'll mark it. Once that's marked, I will cut that on the line there with a circular saw halfway through it, and then use the router to cut off that extra chunk and end up like this one. And I'll fine tune it with some sandpaper to get it so it's just right and is flush on the top and bottom. It's pretty close, but needs a little bit of help. So I got my circular saw just set real shallow at halfway through this where I drew the line, so I can cut that along there. And it'll be halfway through, and my router's set for halfway, and that line will just be a nice buffer between what I want to cut off and the part I don't, so I don't accidentally chip into that. So I'm just gonna clamp this piece down so that I can just follow it and do it right on the line where I want it. Cut that. So get the clamp on there and then get it fine-tuned to where I want it. Alright, now I just gotta clamp this down and then router off that end. Hopefully you can see it at the angle that it's at. It's getting there. We'll keep going tomorrow. Well, I got all the pieces for the circle notched and fitted. They're a little bit uneven, but I'll sand that off once I get these lined out exactly where I want them to be attached together. And then I created a little pattern here to mark where I'm going to drill through, and then I'm going to put these little acorn nut on each of these spots. I'll glue that together, drill through there, have it on each side of that joint there, and I think that'll help add to that motif of a radial engine. So I think I'm gonna stain this black, so I think that silver will be a nice contrast on there, make it look cool. I got the cross piece set out there where I want it. I almost made a mistake. I want that center to be lined up with the line. I flipped it over because this is going to be countersunk into the back of it. So after I flipped it over, I almost forgot because I lined it up with the back, but then the front line would have been off-centered, so I'm glad I caught that. Alright, so I got this tacked together. I got the holes drilled, those are just going to be fake holes that don't actually hold it together. But then I got these ones drilled through, and the whole thing's tacked together now. Now I need to go back and reshape the outside again. It's got a little bit that needs to be shaved off. These ones to make it a little bit better. So I'm going to do that. Well, I got them broken into 2-part sections, and then I put it on top of this one just so I can use my belt sander on its side to even up where the joints are. You can see that sticks out a little, not quite round there. So I'm going to smooth that out in 2-piece chunks, and then switch to the other sides, do the same thing. Alright, well, I got all the pieces back together and sanded down so that it's even on the sides and uniform, pretty much width all the way around. And this is the back side, so now I'm going to put those cross pieces back on there. There's a line from where I did it the wrong spot. But now that I'm done, I think I'm gonna just sand off this mark I put and put fresh ones that are in the real location. So I got some X's marked on where they go just so I can put them back in the same spot. But looking good. Not too bad, I guess, because I'm just doing this with like a circular saw and a belt sander and a chop saw. Like, I don't have any specialty woodworking tools, just doing it the hard way and not perfection. So, but it's really about the propeller, not the mount, so I don't mind. I got these routed out roughly, so I gotta go back and clean it up for those cross pieces. Just gonna round the edges of the cross pieces to fit in there. cut off these tiny little thin pieces. There we go. I hope I don't make a mistake at this part. It would be irritating to have to go back and make more pieces. I got all those routered out and sanded. Pretty much finished on all these. Got them looking good. That's just from when I had cut it with the circular saw. I don't want to sand it down below that. It'll be covered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I am gonna have to change the shape of those cross pieces because that router, I guess I could chisel it out, but I think I'm just gonna round off the edges. That'll be easier, and just take a second with the belt sander to round those off. It won't be that hard. Well, I got the corners of the cross pieces shaved down so they fit inside of that countersink. Now I just mark where they line up on each one of them, and I will router those off so that hopefully at the end they'll sit flush. Okay, so continuing on, I got these cross pieces in there, and then I added some additional bolt holes or screw holes through there. Also added some to the center to hold that together, and sanded it down with just kind of a preliminary sanding to get those edges smooth across. A little bit of a gap there, but I think when I glue it, I'm just going to mix up some sawdust and glue to kind of fill some of that stuff. This is the back, and now I am going to use the router with that curved piece on there, because I want to, well, I actually did a test piece here just to put a little bit of a, what do you call that, bull nose, I guess, maybe. Do it on the back first. I have the screws put in from the front just below the surface there, and then clamp down with some pieces underneath it to hold it steady. So I guess I'm going to do that next. Alright, well, I got all the way around inside and out, and then I just had to unclamp it and rotate it a little because couldn't get where the clamps were. And after that, I'll probably, well, I guess I'll probably flip it over, turn the bolts around from the back, and do the same thing to the front. But I like it. Alright, doing good. Got everything put together, kind of preliminary sanding, got everything routered, both front and back. So I think there's some like fine tuning to do here. So I think I'm going to take it apart and hand sand it. That'll be easier than trying to deal with this whole big thing at once. Okay, back again. I got it all sanded down to 220 grit. Got all the router imperfections pretty much taken care of. I don't think I have to go too crazy because this wood's so soft that if it bumps into stuff and whatever, it's gonna get dented anyway. So it screws in. I didn't do these ones because those are those fake ones that are actually not holding anything together. But added a thing in the middle, so the hub of that propeller is gonna go around it, so you might be able to see it in the middle, but it also holding it together. So now I think I will glue the outer ring and the inner cross first, because I'm gonna stain them two different colors. So I think I'll glue it together first, then stain it, and then put it back together, and then just glue where they're attached. So there you go. There's a little bit of a gap on a couple of these, but the ones with gaps are across from each other. So I think I'll have the propeller going that way so it'll cover up. You won't be able to see them because these ones are a lot closer. I'm going to stain the outer ring black and the inner one, I think it's called Sonora Red. And that should match, hopefully look good with the red and black on the propeller. There we go. Well, we got the center part glued, and I put the bolts back in it to hold it while it's gluing. And look what happened. I've put these in several times, both sides, either way. Never had an issue. Put it together to glue it, and it does that. I'm going to let it glue first, then see if I can get these bolts out, and then delicately try to repair it. Luckily, it'll be covered up mostly, but god dang it. Well, I figured out what I did. Somehow I flipped this piece. This end should have been at that end. This one's good. This one's not. So now, I don't know if you can see through there, not really, but looking through there with light behind them, you can tell they don't line up. Neither does that end. This one, this side and the other is good. So I'm going to drill through, I guess, from the front to put new holes so it doesn't do that again. God dang, that's so irritating. You know what the worst part about that mistake is that when I was doing the ring around the outside, I accidentally did these two pieces wrong. Should have been routed on the top on one end and the bottom on the other. And I was like, man, I could still keep going and nobody would ever notice. But I decided to spend the time to do new ones, and probably wasted, I don't know, 3 hours or something like that between the original ones I made and the new ones I made. It was like a day or two just to replace those, but it was worth it. So on this side, it still lines up pretty nice, not too bad. But on this side, there's a huge gap in there now. So man, it is so frustrating when you work so hard on something and then at the end you screw it up in such a way that you can't recover from it other than just keep going. But man, that is, you know, that's something I learned a long time ago, that the worst thing if you make a mistake is you just make a new piece or whatever. But this is so far to the end of it that I can't make a new piece now unless I did a whole new cross piece. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but man, that is so frustrating. I don't know if anyone else has done that at so late stage of a project, but after the number of hours I've put into this, and to do it myself, there's nobody to blame but myself. But because I can't take this apart, it's already been gluing for like an hour at least. If I tried to take it apart, I don't know, I'd probably end up breaking them, which I guess would force me to make a new piece. But man, that is just gutting. Alright, I let it dry overnight. It's not great, but now I gotta sand it off. I just put a paper towel in between it, and the stuff that's stuck on there, I'll just sand it off. Alright, well, I got that cleaned up. I guess it's alright. Now I'm gonna go and glue all the pieces around the edge too. Well, I got it all together and glued, and I spent the time and put all these acorn nuts on here, so that's what those are gonna look like. be taking all the bolts out and sanding off any of that glue residue. Just cleaning that up before I stain it. Then I had the exact number of acorn nuts I needed, and one of them has a manufacturing defect where it wasn't threaded on the inside, which is frustrating because I bought all the ones that were at the store. So I think I'm probably just going to glue it on there. It's not really adding any structural support anyway, but another little frustration. So there we go. I got the staining done, and I also drilled the holes for where it's going to be attached to the wall. Those are 16 inches apart, and actually 16 inches top to bottom, and then drilled the holes to where this will be mounted to the back of the propeller. That's those studs that'll be in the center. So now I got to clean it up and put a clear coat on it. So almost done. I'll be glad to get the clear coat on there so I can put these bolts with the acorn nuts on there and see how it looks. I think it'll look real nice with the black and silver. Clean it up and spray the clear coat. Alright, well, got the clear coat on. Got all the bolts with the acorn nuts on there. I think that looks nice. Black and silver looks pretty cool. So now I need to mount it on the wall, figure out where the studs are, get it straight. And I think I'll put it on the wall first, figure out where those holes will be for the studs, and then here's the holes to attach it to the back of that propeller. But I'm gonna get it mounted on the wall first, then attach it, and then reattach it to the wall. But I got it tacked up on the wall. I just want to get the mounting points where I want them before I mount that propeller to it, because it's going to be heavy to try to do that. But I like it. See how it ends up looking. Check that out. That's pretty cool, right? Well, I got all 4 of the holes drilled into the studs. Now I just want to check the level of it. Ugh. See how it goes. Jeez. Not bad. I'm happy with that. Now if I can mount that propeller straight, I'll be in good shape. Alright, well, I got it mounted from the back with those 4 screw holes. I spent quite a bit of time on that because it's got to be as square as possible, because this propeller is so long that if it's off by a little bit and it's on the wall, you'll be able to tell. And I mounted it so that the better looking logo will be pointed down and easier to see. And I'll have to check in the barn and maybe I'll get lucky and find this thing. I don't know. But it's ready to mount on the wall. I think the overall dimensions are okay. It's not too big.